The Quilted Bum Bag. Not only cute but also super easy to make, with no raw edges or binding on the inside. And regarding the skill level, I would say this one is for confident beginners. If you made any of my projects, you'll be fine with this one. Now let's start with your materials. Get everything as stated in the pattern. That's 2 pieces of lining, which you can set aside for a minute. Then all your pieces of soft and stable. For your tops, sides, back and front. And then your corresponding fabric for each section. Again for tops, sides, back and front. I like to get 2 different zippers and change out the zipper pulls. I show you how I do that later on. And then you will need a slider and buckle for your strap. My hardware is 1 inch wide, which then determines the width of my strap. Make sure to cut enough pieces for your scrappy strap. Now we set all this aside and start with quilting your panels. Get your pieces of soft and stable and correspondent fabric for each section. And instead of pins, I like to use glue spray to stop my fabric from shifting around. I just spray it on my soft and stable and then I place my fabric on top, right side facing up, making sure it's all nice and flat. Now I'm marking my first line and then I start quilting my panel. And then I start quilting it by machine. And with this one, I'm pretty much tracing my fabric. Overall, the quilting probably takes the longest, but it's so worth it. And that's all my panels quilted. My tops, my sides, my back, and my front. And now I'm trimming all my panels to size. Make sure to follow the measurements exactly, otherwise you end up with a wonky bag. And after trimming, make sure to label all your panels accordingly. And for my front panel, I'm marking all my corners, just like this. and then I cut them away. And now sew once around each of your panels, making sure your seams won't come undone. And we're now making a belt strap. Place your pieces right sides together and then sew along the edge using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And then do the same for another piece. Repeat this until you've got 2 strips, each measuring 45 inches. And here are my fabric strips to piece my strap 1 and 2. Place the first one in front of you, right side facing up, and then the other one on top, right side facing down. And then sew them together on each side using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And that's my short strap done and my long one as well. Now I'm using a safety pin and turn them right side out. Just like this. Make sure to really form out the edges and then give them a good press. And then stitch along the edges using an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. And now I'm installing my hardware. Now open your buckle and use this male bit for the next step. Now take a short strap and thread it through just like this. And this is what it should look like. Now clip it together and then sew it in place, with one end of your strap staying raw. Now take your slider and thread one end of strap 2 through your slider just like this. Place it in front of you just like this. Now flip it over and it should now look like this. Now flip the end over your slider and fold in the raw edge by 1/2 inch. Clip it in place and then sew along the edge. And it should now look like this. Now thread the female bit of your buckle onto the other end of your strap, just like this, making sure that the buckle is facing away just as shown here. Sew the slider up and the buckle facing away. Now take the raw edge of your strap and thread it through your slider one more time, from left to right. Just like this. And make sure that your strap is not twisted. And that's both your straps finished. And both of them still having a raw edge. I am now changing my zipper pulls. I start by cutting off the edges and then I take off my zipper pulls. Just like this. Now I'm taking one of my zipper pulls and push it onto my fork, with the small bit at the bottom. Now I carefully re-thread my zipper tape, push the fork against my tummy and then I pull it all down. And then I do the same for my second pull. If this was a bit too fast for you, please check out my full tutorial on zipper pulls. I make sure to put up the link for you. We are now assembling your bum bag. Starting with your tabs. Fold your tab in half just like this and then clip it in place. For tab 2, make sure to mark your center and leave a mark on the right. Just like this. And then connect your marks. Now take strap 2 and thread the raw edge from left to right through your folded T2, making sure the raw edge is peeking out a little on your right. and then clip it all in place. Now cut away the triangle just like this. Now we do the same on the other side. Fold top 1 in half just like this, and then clip it in place. Now make a mark in your center and then leave a mark on your left, just like this. And then connect your marks. Now take strap 1 and thread the raw edge through your folded T1 from right to left. Clip it all in place and then again cut away your triangle. Now sew along the edges of T1 and T2 using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And then trim your seam allowance to 1/8 of an inch, just like this. Now turn T1 and T2 right side out, just like this. And then sew along the edge using 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. We are now assembling the back of your bum bag. For that you will need the following pieces. That's your quilted B, your S1 and S2, and your strap 1 and strap 2. Make a mark on the left and right of your quilted panel B. Then mark your center on S1 and S2 on the right and left, just like this. And then set them aside for a minute. Now line up T1 with a mark on your left, just like this, and clip it in place. Now line up T2 with a mark on your right and clip it in place as well. Now sew along T1 and T2 using 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. And that's your belt installed. Now mark the center of B on the right and left. Now place S1 on the left, lining up your central marks. And then place S2 on the right, again lining up your central marks. Clip it all in place and then sew along the edges using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And that's your sides installed. Now cut away 1/4 of an inch of B just above and below your seam allowance of S1 and S2 in all 4 corners. Now clip your belt in place using binding clips, keeping your belt strap out of the way for the final assembly. And now we're doing the final assembly of your bag. Place a piece of lining in front of you, right side facing up. On top place your zipper teeth facing up as well. And then place your quilted front on top of that, right side facing down. And then clip it all in place. Now sew along the edge using a 1/4 inch seam allowance or your zipper foot. And that's your first side installed. Now place your second piece of lining in front of you, right side facing up. On top place your zipper teeth facing up. And then your quilted B on top of that, right side facing down. With S1 on your right and S2 on your left. Make sure everything is neatly lining up and then clip it all in place. And again, sew it all in place using a 1/4 inch seam allowance or your zipper fit. Open it all up and then give it a good press. Now sew along the edges of your zipper using an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. And it should now look like this. Move your zipper pull into the middle and then sew along the edges of your zipper, just like that. And then trim off the edges of your zipper on your right and left. Now fold your zipper fabric sandwich just like this, lining against lining and B against F. And then clip all your outer straight edges in place, making sure they all neatly line up, only leaving an opening at the bottom of your lining. Now sew along all the outer edges using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. We are now boxing out your corners. That's for your lining corners and your quilted corners. And this is how you do it. Pull open the corners and pinch the 2 edges flat together, matching the side and bottom seams, and then clip it all in place. And then repeat this for your remaining 3 corners. Now sew along your corner edges using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And that's your 4 corners boxed out. Next up are your zipper corners. Here we have to do a double pinch. And this is how you do it. Pull open the quilted edge and pinch the seam flat against the middle of your zipper, just like this. Now pull open the lining edge as well and again pinch the side seam flat against the middle of your zipper as well. And then clip all 3 layers in place. Now repeat all of this on the other side of your zipper. And then sew along your double pinch corners using a 1/4 inch seam allowance as well. And that's all 6 corners boxed out now. Now turn your bum bag right side out through the opening in your lining, just like this. Make sure to really form out all your edges and then close the opening in your lining either by hand or machine. And that's your quilted bum bag all done. Now it's up to you how you're gonna wear it, as a bum bag or maybe as a crossbody bag just like this. And if you'd like to make a matching zipper bag, watch the quilted boxy pouch tutorial next.